Is that sharing? You
Yeah,
see this?
it looks good.
Yeah.
Should I put it in presentation mode?
Probably better.
I would.
The problem is it goes to a different screen. Okay, how do I stop that from happening? Let's put it here. And let's do presentation mode, see if it goes to a no.
Hey, and Vicki, I have a question while he's doing that.
Yeah.
Do we have an official title for this segment? I just got the commercialization SBIR STTR phase 3 segment. That's all I've got.
Sole source contracting opportunity.
Sole source. All right. It's helpful to know that. Okay.
And it's lunch and learn time, so I've got to go get something to drink. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave my headset here so where I don't make noises.
All right, how about that?
Oh, that's good. No, that's real good.
So, want me to share it when the time comes, or do you want it up and ready to go?
Okay.
No, which, that was a question. Which way you want me to do it? Have it up and ready or share it when the time comes?
Probably share it because I got to introduce you.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to share it. Do you want me to share it now or when you introduce me?
After I introduce you, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I would do.
Yep, that's fine.
All right. Let's. I'll start letting people in here in a few minutes.
Okay.
There it is. And the presentation start on the hour, or is it starting at 1:45?
We'll start it on the hour. Is that what you were, I think we'll give it, I'll start letting people in at about 1:45, and then when it gets a little closer to noon, just looking at the numbers, we'll start it then.
Okay.
We'll start with you, Rick, with the introduction, or probably Alan. I think he said he'd say just a couple words, and then okay.
So he's going to say a few words and he'll mess up my what I wrote here for my introduction, but that's okay. That's okay because it's meant to be fun and exciting.
Rick.
Just ask Alan. It's meant to be fun and exciting. So
That's why I'm wearing my, where is it? My polka dot tie.
that's nice. That's nice.
Alan, I can see your green screen.
I know that won't be for long, but it just is who I am. Whatever, I can't even talk. I have no brain. The brain was left me yesterday, so kind of freaked myself out. Where is my?
And they talk about one of the side effects of COVID is brain fog. And I got to thinking, I must have had COVID the last 5 years. So,
You just couldn't blame it on it.
I know. Couldn't find a name for it.
Crooked. There. How's that? All right.
Alan, I don't think we've had a chance to meet yet. You've talked to my boss, Mike Shirley, so pleasure to meet you finally.
You too. I've heard a bunch of good stuff about you.
Oh, I paid him to say that.
And $20, but I still haven't seen the money.
It's in the
Or he
book.
hasn't seen the money yet.
Yeah,
I'm Bill Carey. I'm the science advisor. So I actually am an electrical engineer and I have an engineering.
If you folks will allow me to, I'm operating on a limited brain more than normal. For those that want to, like Tim Fowler, that would like to speak up. So just to clarify that. So today we've got HVRA org is going to be presenting. He's going to be presenting the presenter. So he said, since you're back, did you want to? I said, no. I said, I'm going to step out of the way. Just letting you know, we're recording this. We record all of these, but we're recording this one as well as the NASA one last week to as an outreach. Besides you, those that are here, we're recording this in order for those that we speak to that are good prospects. So today's program, once we understand it better, and you, for those of you that are what we call tech coaches or business advisors, as you understand this, then you'll know, oh, I've got some prospects that I know weren't there. I'd like them to see this. So we plan to have this setting in the library to where you can link it and refer it out to those to come back and listen to this today, where they can do the overview and they can zip through it. They can get to it as they need to. Then afterwards, they can get back with us for this particular program or others like it. Lori Moncrief knows of others like it. So today's presentation is a lot about what this program is about, what it can do, and whether or not it's good for you. So with that, Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to mute and pretty much stay out of the way. I appreciate everybody being here today, and hopefully you'll get some good use out of it.
And Bill, you're fuzzy. You need to do your thing with your camera in case you do come back on or whatever.
I'm not on. It's not in focus.
Yeah, you're on. Let me know when we start.
You're good. That's what that was about.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Oh, all right.
Pay attention, thick as you are.
Well, welcome everyone to the Kansas SBDC Lunch and Learn series. This week is sole source contracting opportunities. And before we get started and introduce our guest speaker, there's a couple of points I'd like to make. The whole point of this entire Lunch and Learn series is to really not just make it into webinars and have speakers go on and on various topics. We really want to make this interactive. So the whole idea is to spend 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes with a speaker or two at each one of these sessions. But then we really want to make it interactive. We want people to ask questions, and we really want to dig into the various aspects of whatever we're talking about that day. So with that, we got a great speaker here today. We've got Bill Robinson. He's with FTI, and they've been doing SBIR phase 3s, and he's going to give you some insight into what they've been doing, how they've been doing it, and he's actually going to give you a little bit of an intro into the phase 1 and phase 2, just to sort of level set things. And so with that, let me give you his intro. And so Bill Robinson has been serving as Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives for Frontier Technology since 2018. Bill is a retired Air Force veteran based in San Antonio, Texas, and he's been working with the DoD and federal civilian agencies for the last 17 years. Bill also is on the board of directors for the AFCEA International, a leading professional association for national security, and serves as chairman of the International Membership Committee. And with that, Bill, take it over.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. And first of all, thank you all for having me today and dialing into the session. When Rick reached out to me, I'm always glad. Our company's been working in the Small Business Innovation Research Program for a long time. And I know some of you on the line here are familiar with the SBIR program. The approach that I wanted to take today to the presentation is not necessarily about our company. Obviously, I'll tell you a little bit about that so you can see where we've come from. But hopefully you'll see us as, you don't hear too many SBIR companies that are a great success story. Someone has been able to maybe take their technology through the SBIR program, and most times it's been so hard to really commercialize that technology enough to really be known about that. We find ourselves, when we do our presentations to government customers, they see us kind of like as a unicorn. It's we know they exist, but no one's ever seen them before, right? So hopefully give you a presentation today, tell you a little bit about what we've done, why we've done it, and hopefully for those of you who are looking to take advantage of the federal SBIR program and see the struggles, and maybe you've had some struggles in the beginning, know that there is light at the end of the rainbow. And hopefully I can answer some questions and give some guidance today or some opinions, and hopefully shed some lights on some stuff. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here for the presentation I've got. Screen one, share. Let me know if the presentation's okay. Good to go. Good. Thank you, Alan. All right, so you'll see here the title of the presentation is Beyond Phase 2. And probably from the PTAX organizations and others, you probably have had other presentations that have talked about the SBIR program and the 1s and 2s. I'm not going to focus on that today. The focus is beyond phase 2s, more about the phase 3s and the sole sourcing capabilities, which is the series that Rick is presenting here today. So that's going to be my take, but I will level set a little bit, not knowing who the audience is. So I'll go to my next slide. What we'll talk about today is a little bit about the SBIR program, some of the participating federal agencies, some of our technology, so you can kind of see how we got into this business, and most of it's going to be on, okay, how does this apply to you, and maybe answer some questions to help you with your SBIR technologies and how to advance them with the government. FTI is headquartered in Dayton, Ohio. We've been in the business since the SBIR program first started in the mid 80s, for about 35 years. And we've had a lot of successes and we've had a lot of failures. We've got over 160 SBIR Phase 1 and Phase 2 awards. But there's only about a suite of about a dozen tools today that have matured to what we use as in our SBIR Phase 3s. So of those 160, that tells you a lot of them have never gone anywhere. It might have been an award for one particular government customer, but it never went to Phase 2. Or even if it went to Phase 2, they didn't have the money to do anything with it. And like most SBIR companies, it goes into that valley of death, right? You think you got a leading edge technology, you find a government customer who needs it, and you're having some good conversations, but unfortunately it stops. And people are like, why am I continuing to pour money down the drain in the SBIR program? Hopefully you'll see a little bit of a success story to give you hope that there's more to this rainbow here, and hopefully you'll follow that. What you'll see is the tools and technologies that FTI focused on was decision analysis and technologies. So we kind of had a little niche area that we played in. 90% of the SBIR world, as most of you probably know, is widgets, hard-coded products of some type. We didn't do any of that. We're in the software side of it, and our software technologies were built around helping government customers make better decisions. And that has led to why we're able to do what we're doing today. So here's just a short caption. I'm not going to go into these, but these are the technologies that we've built today that support the life cycle of any type of system or program. We've got technologies that help whether the government is in a R&D phase or if they're all the way through sustainment. Our technologies can help in a number of different areas. And that's how government customers have been finding reasons why and to employ our technologies to help them to take the program to the next level and be able to keep them on track. But a number of technologies here in the decision space, some of it is financial management, some of it is cost analysis, some of it is life cycle analysis, program readiness. There's a number of technologies that you see here on the screen that we use today and offer to our government customers. But of those 60, these are really the main ones that have matured over the years. So just to level set, like Rick said, I just want to take a couple of minutes. SBIR Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3, right? 3-phase process. And today we're going to focus on SBIR Phase 3s, but so everybody understands the SBIR Phase 1, when a government customer puts out a requirement, they do this I think it's three or four times a year. They put out these needs, and each government agency that does this queries their fields. They put out these requirements. Companies like you and I will look at them and see if we have a technology that can help them. And every year we do this, and for 35 years, FTI has been looking at these lists and responding to some of these needs that are out there. Phase 1 is hopefully they like what we wrote in our proposal and they give us a Phase 1 award. It's not a whole lot of money, but it gets us to talk to them a little bit more in depth about our capability to help them with their problem set. If they like it, we'll move to a Phase 2, and most times that's down selected to help them build a prototype or proof of concept, a demonstration that capability can help them do that. And that's a little bit more money. For those of you who might be familiar with the Air Force side of the SBIR program, the AFWERX program, that group in the Air Force, just so you know, they've reinvigorated the SBIR program specifically for the Air Force, and they've tweaked it so it won't match what's on the slide here today. They've kind of streamlined it. What's showing here is the common DoD BAA that's out every year that a lot of the other services all use. AFWERX just recently tweaked that program. So there is some nuances there. But I like what AFWERX is doing to reinvigorate the concept of helping companies like you and I who've got technologies that can help them. How do we knock on that front door of the government? because the government's all over the place. And how do you know if you get into the right people? This is a great way to at least get your technologies in the door. There's some different aspects that AppWorks does, but they have a whole team set up to help guide you to the next level. But what we do today is our technologies are being used in the SBIR Phase 3 world. Our company is still less than 500 employees. We're able to bid on SBIR Phase 1s and 2s, but for the most part, we don't do them as much as we used to, because the majority of our business model now is taking the technologies that have been mature, that have had multiple Phase 2s, multiple millions of dollars put against these technologies, and help government customers with their programs. You've all probably seen this before if you've done anything with the SBIR world. This is a picture from the SBA site. These are the SBIR and STTR participating agencies. They all have SBIR programs, but the ones in greens also have an STTR, which brings in the universities. So if you're interested in these programs, these 11 agencies here, these 11 agencies here do it so much that they have established their own program. Of course, the SBIR program is available for any federal agencies, but these 11 do it so much as it's a great entry point. If you're a company just looking to grow your capabilities in the SBIR world, these 11 agencies are ones you probably want to focus, because you'll have the best luck to get something started. If you're focusing on the Department of Defense, obviously there is a lot more than just the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, right? And Coast Guard. There are more DoD agencies that also are part of the DoD SBIR program. And looking at some of these, whether your capabilities are space-based or medical-based or whatever the case is, there's a federal agency here or a department that may be interested in your technologies. So don't think it's just the main services. There are other parts of the Department of Defense you may be interested in. I put a slide together here just to show you, these are the 37 SBIR Phase 3 contracts that FTI has today. We've been very successful working with the Air Force and the Army and the Navy, predominantly the Air Force and the Navy, doing SBIR Phase 3 contracts, using our technologies and putting that into the hands of the warfighter to help them get their missions done. Some of them have been in the shape of a sole source IDIQ. Some of them have been a sole source basic ordering agreement. And some of them have been direct awards. And you've got a mix going on here. Down the bottom here in the purple, you can see the other defense agencies that we're doing stuff with. DISA, even Defense Health Agency, Office of Secretary of Defense, the Marine Corps now, as well as the Missile Defense Agency. So we've been able to take our technologies, and what we've done for one, take that capability and market it in all the other departments. And we've had a lot of good success. So I'm not here to tell you about each and every one of those. It's more about just so you see that it can be marketed in a number of different ways for you. So I've been with the company for the last 2 years. So I haven't been on the SBIR Phase 1 side of the house with our company bidding proposals, but I reached out to our team and I said, hey, I'm doing a presentation today. What are some lessons learned? If we're an experienced SBIR company and we're doing very well, obviously on the SBIR Phase 3 side now, but what are the things that we've learned, lessons learned in Phase 1 and 2 that I can tell my audience today? So they put forth a couple of things here, and hopefully it makes sense to you. On Phase 1, a little bit on the success side of that is what he talked about is ensuring that you understand the customer need statement. Don't try to assume what they want. Go by what they have written and engage with them. Get the Q&A going with them to clear it. It's open for conversation, and they want you to ask as many questions as possible. So you really get to understand what they're looking for. You're going to have more success that way. Give them a value proposition. I don't want to read this slide to you, but basically you can kind of read it yourself as I go through here. But FTI did this today by bringing our technologies to their fight. So knowing their mission, given the value proposition for our technologies that matches to their mission set. And that'll help them to understand how their technology can help. Obviously, the more past performances you have, given them examples, whatever it is, wherever you've used this technology, even if it's been in the commercial world, document that in there. Give them that level of confidence that you understand this capability, you've got the solution for them. They want to know your investment strategy on how much you've put into this. And so it can be done in a couple of different ways, by showing your investment, your IR&D to this, as well as how you've solved any of these other problems. And so, for example, maybe you've done it for the Army and you're answering an Air Force SBIR requirement today. That's okay. Give them the examples of how you use it, even if it's not used exactly the same way. It's the same technology that's got the investments been in there, but now you're able to tweak it to help them solve their problem. Right, and obviously they all want to know in the very beginning, have you thought about commercializing this? And that doesn't necessarily mean shrink wrapping it and planning on putting it on the shelves to sell it. But you have to understand, if you've got a technology and you want to market it, how do you plan on using that for a lot of other customers, and how do you plan on getting that out there? That'll help you win a SBIR phase 2, and that'll help you understand a little bit more as your plan of action for phase 3s. Thinking this all the way through, and a lot of companies read these requirements and they just pitch their capability, hoping they think they're going to get a big giant award contract from the government, and it's not the case. Remember, this is still competitive. You're being down selected, and they're comparing your technology in that focus areas against everybody else. So the more you can tell them that you've matured this and your thought process on this will help guide you all the way through this process. And no doubt they probably told you some of that when you've been through any of the PTAC presentations. Let me just mention phase 2s, pretty much the same thing, but more commercialization details. Building that return on investment, building the value proposition, your revenue that you're planning on, how you're planning on growing it, 10%, 25%, 50%, shows that you're committed to this technology. And obviously more letters of support for the actual transition of that technology, the better it is and the stronger you can get. If you're pitching to the Air Force, letting them know you already got a Marine Corps customer lined up for the same thing, you've got an Army customer lined up or another Air Force one, whatever the case is, that'll all help you. So it's probably a good time now to, because I passed on a couple of lessons learned. Once again, I wasn't there at the beginning of this, but are there any questions when it comes to what I presented here on this slide? Or Rick, should I wait to the very end for questions?
Either way, if nobody has any questions, maybe they'll have a question at the end.
Sure.
So.
Hey, Bill, I got a question real quick.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
This is Terry Chapas with Analect. Does this program apply to STTRs, phase 1 and 2s? What you do?
Yeah, phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 applies. The only difference on the STTR, you have a university backer.
Okay. Yeah, we're under a phase 1 STTR with AFWorks right now. We're halfway through it in the period of performance and getting ready to submit for phase 2. And we're hunting down MOUs for our services. Yeah, and that's the difference with the AFWorks program compared to the standard DoD one, right? The standard DoD one, government customers actually put forth the need. AFWorks, they're allowing people to come in the front door, pitch their capabilities, and then they go find an Air Force customer and get a commitment from them. And so it's a little different. But they're hopefully helping you find those customers to get letters of commitment. Okay, thanks.
Hey, Bill, this is Bijar here. I have a question. I was wondering, and I know you weren't there in the beginning portion of the phase 1s and the phase 2s. My question to you is really around the phase 3s and then the follow-on collateral phase ones that could probably evolve out of those phase 3 engagements. Have you had any of those situations come about where, as you're developing out the phase 3, you notice, there's some additional R&D that could come about from this core platform work that you're working on, and then turn around and see where you could explore possibilities of developing that new concept under a phase 1?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, what you mentioned there. So understand that SBIR phase 1s and phase 2s are supported by the SBIR program and the SBA and using SBIR dollars. SBIR phase 3s is the commercialization of that technology, and it's not SBIR funds. It is strictly operational organization funds, right? So no organization is going to go back to a phase 1 when it comes out of that. However, there's a couple things I'm going to talk about coming up here on how to expand your phase 2, and that could be going back and doing tweaks of it. So using more phase 2 money because you find another customer who wants to take that technology in a different direction.
Got it.
So I may be able to answer a little bit more to that question. A couple of slides coming up.
Okay.
So question, Greg, this is Pete from IIT. Sorry, I'm driving right now, so if there's some background noise, I apologize. So I am a managed service provider. I'm already commercialized in the local area where I'm at, near an Army installation. And what about things that aren't in SBIR yet? So recently the DISA commander came out and said, hey, we need to start looking at, going out to the commercial world to manage services for garrison networks and et cetera. Being in that realm, I'm interested in how we leverage that. Is there a way to do, unsolicited proposals for SBIR and stuff like that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I can tell you on that. So first of all, managed services is not a leading edge technology capability, right? So it's not a perfect fit for the SBIR world. Unless you've got a technology in your company that you use in your managed services, that is what gives you the crux of leading edge technology that you can use. For example, someone mentioned AFWorks. You can go to them and go, hey, I got this capability, and I hear that the DoD is looking to go manage services, and this is what we use in this case here. That could become a SBIR phase 1 for you. And when it becomes a SBIR phase 1 for you, now you can go down and do SBIR phase 3 contracting. So SBIR phase 1 and 2 money is about advancing the technology. Phase 3 is about taking that technology that's already matured and putting it to use. So, the nuance to the unsolicited proposal is understand the FAR regulations is everybody has to compete for work. That's just the rules. The SBIR program gives you and like every rule, there's a couple of nuances, different ways you can handle that, right? And the SBIR program is a great sole source capability because it's about the leading edge technology, not how that technology is going to be used, meaning the full scope of work, but it's about getting that technology into that government. The government needs that technology, and the SBIR world gives them the access to get to it. How do they do that? They create a SBIR phase 3 contract to come directly to you because you have the intellectual property on that technology, right? So that's the nuance versus, hey, to do managed services, well, everybody does managed services, and you can only imagine the lawsuits that would fly if they gave somebody some work without going to the public and asking first.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So Bill, this Deja here. My question to you is, in your presentation, will you be talking about the IP that you transitioned from your phase 1 and phase 2 into the phase 3, and how that looked like in terms of securing it? So, because what cued me off was that you just kind of touched on IP briefly here. So, thank you.
Yeah, I've got one slide that touches on that. We may have a longer conversation when it comes to it, but let me get to that and we'll talk more. All right, moving on. So assuming you got a SBIR phase 1 and hopefully you've moved it to a SBIR phase 2, right? Of all the 15 companies that responded to that one requirement, you were down selected. Maybe they gave 5 companies a SBIR phase 1 award. Great. Now you've all have a deliverable that's due in 6 months, and maybe they've selected you to do and given you a SBIR phase 2 contract, meaning they want to see a prototype of your technology or prove out your capability, whatever that requirement was in the SBIR phase 2. You have now delivered on site, and here's my demonstration. See, this is what you asked for. This is what my tool can do. See how it helps you. And usually the response around the room is, because you've been working with them all this time, they're like, this is great, love it. And you go, okay, you want to buy it, right? That's SBIR phase 3. It's their money now. It's no longer SBIR funds. You help them build it. Using your technology, you proved out that capability to handle that government customer's problem set. And now you're like, okay, how would you like to contract this? Well, they may ask you to do a unsolicited proposal, whatever the case is, in order to get to your technology. But the point is, SBIR phase 3 is a direct award, right? However, that gets all fleshed out. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But the point is, if you're lucky, you get a SBIR phase 3 contract. Odds are they don't have any money for your technology at this point, right? They know they have the need. They didn't know it existed. You prove that it's out there. Now they got to go find the money, right? And this is where that valley of death happens. Your technology sits on the shelf because the government wasn't ready to buy your stuff yet. And you may not even be ready to sell it. Or maybe it proved out something, and then the more people that saw it go, yeah, but we're going to need it to do this and do that. That's where you can go and get an enhancement to your SBIR phase 2 and get more money. And that's where going back through the SBIR program. Once again, it's SBIR money, right? Working with the SBIR office, working with that customer, or even other government customers. Maybe someone else on that installation or another Army unit or Navy unit, whatever, may be interested. And now you can go back and get additional funds to take that technology, build the enhancements that they realize the warfighter really needs. So there's ways, and I'm not the experts on SBIR phase 2s, but when you read the policy and you go through the program, there's other ways to expand on your SBIR phase 2. Once again, SBIR phase 2 is a proof of concept, right? You're showing your technology works. So just knowing that there's the opportunity of getting additional pilot sites that, okay, maybe we did this and now they want a demonstration to show that it works over at this Air Force base. Okay, hey, this, you know what? It might be better if we try this at an overseas base. Okay, let's working with that government customer. They can help you go back with the SBIR program, get additional SBIR funds to do another proof of concept at another location. But that there's limitations and so forth. So you can read up on that or work with your SBIR customer in the SBIR office of that agency to understand their nuances and policies. And you can only imagine the DoD is not one standard organization. The Army does things a little differently. The Army or the Air Force and the Navy, they all have their individual tweaks on how things happen. So just work with those customers and just know that there's other ways. If you're lucky enough to get a SBIR phase 2, there's other ways to keep that technology moving and hopefully find other customers to be able to take it to the next level. But once you do that, and as I said, the goal is to get that direct award to you. No longer using the SBIR offices, you're now using government customers' money. And how does this government customer buy their stuff? Well, everything is in the competitive world, right? They have their contract vehicles, they have ways they buy. I spend a lot of time educating government customers on SBIR phase 3 contracting. Do you know you can do this? No. Most of them have no idea because they don't live in the R&D world, which is where the SBIR program runs. I'm educating them that they can use that R&D program, the SBIR program, and phase 3 contracting to be able to get leading edge technology into the hands of the warfighter directly without having to wait 18 to 24 months, typical acquisition cycle. Basically, I'm focused on what the technologies that my company has and the capabilities we can help them and the problems that we can help them solve with that technology. But just understand, SBIR phase 3 funding is organizational funds, no longer SBIR funds. And what you do now is, like you've seen what we've done, is maybe I responded to a SBIR 1 requirement 5 years ago with the Army, and we built out this leading edge technology. We realized, wow, everybody in the DoD can use this. And we proved to them, hey, everybody can do this. And we got a SBIR phase 2. That's that commercialization plan. And we said, okay, let's do that. And so we started marketing it to the Air Force, to the Navy, and missile defense, and every government customer we could. And we found ways to take that technology and put it into the hands of the warfighter, whichever service that was. And it's proven very well, worked very well for us. Can't complain at all. But a lot of them are still unsure of what the SBIR program is. But that's what we do, is we educate them on it's a acquisition capability. They can get to these SBIR technologies to help them in that mission. But it's part of it. What's the easy button always been in federal government contracting? That has been, the Alaskan tribals and the 8A program, which is wonderful. We've got a lot of companies that fit in the 8A program. It's a great way to get those companies off the ground, which is the purpose of that small business 8A program. And there's some limitations, but there's some great capabilities with that. And now the buzzword is OTAs, other transaction authorities, and government customers are using those. They're unfamiliar with the SBIR phase 3 as a sole source acquisition. And because not everybody can sell their technology to everybody else. Most of the technologies in the SBIR program, and I don't know if this applies to you and your capabilities in your company, but if your SBIR technology is so niche, it only solves this problem, like you built a wire mesh cover for a space satellite camera system, because you've got the technology to build it on a laser printer, and you did that, well, that intellectual property that you got a SBIR award for can only be used to remanufacture that particular part. It can't run a cyber program. It can't run a IT network, but it can do that unless you find another customer that has a satellite that needs your mesh covering over that camera. You really can't sell it to many customers. But that's what the commercialization plan is all about, is understanding, is there more of a market for this technology? And if so, I think the government will invest in it. But SBIR phase 3s are sole source direct award contracts. Government customers can get competition credit. If you're still a small business in some of the NAICS codes, they can get automatic small business credit. So it's a win-win for the government all the way around. It helps them with their small business numbers. The operations folks get technology right away. They don't have to wait years for it. So from the program side to the contracting side to the industry partner, we all win using the SBIR phase 3 program. What else? As we had briefly touched on before, a couple of phase 3 attributes I want to make sure is clear, that there is no limit to the number, duration, type, or dollar values of SBIR phase 3's awards. We've got SBIR phase 3's awards that are 500,000, and we've got some SBIR phase 3 awards that are 400 million. It can be whatever range it is, and whatever the government needs. If you're selling a space satellite capability, it may be a lot of money, or it could be a little amount. SBIR phase 3's contract, there's no limitations on that. The small business size standards only applies to 1 and 2, right? So government customers like doing SBIR phase 3s with my company because we're still a small business in one NAICS code that works well for them, and they get small business credit.
But if I'm a large business, they can still sole source phase 3 contract with me. They just don't get small business credit. So the companies like Lockheed Martin and Jacobs and Boeing, they have probably over the years have bought other companies that have a SBIR technology. And if it's still any good, they're going to their government customers and going, hey, would you like this? Guess what? SBIR phase 3, you can buy it directly from us. You don't have to go out there and compete it. They just don't get any small business credit. Any federal agency can enter into a phase 3 contract, not just those 11 that you saw on there. As long as you have a SBIR phase 1 or phase 2 award, you can market it to the World Bank, any federal agency, National Science Fund, Foundation, any federal agency, Department of Treasury, Department of Commerce, Department of XYZ can all do a SBIR phase 3 contracting. Some of the contracting officers know about it. Some of them need to be educated. And some that know about it only know about 1s and 2s. They don't know about 3s. They've never done them before. And so you have to spend a lot of time educating them. But as we were mentioning before, a lot of times you can give a government customer, once you have a SBIR phase 1 or phase 2 award, you can write unsolicited proposals to government customers, deliver them, and they can award off of that unsolicited proposal. So it's worth doing. And as we talked about briefly earlier, you own the SBIR data rights. The SBIR program protects your data rights, your intellectual property. And I think you have at least 20 years on that. But I'm not the expert on the intellectual property and the data rights. So I recommend that you definitely read the policy on that. But I'm pretty sure the way we've got it quoted here, not less than 20 years from the date of the SBIR award. So it can help you really grow your company in many different ways for the next 20 years. And a list I put on here too, a little lesser known fact. Even if, now I've been talking all this time about selling your capability to a government customer. If there is a federal prime contractor today, existing contract, let's say Lockheed Martin has one to build a satellite system or the F-22 program or whatever. A lot of those programs are recommended by Congress to all ACAT systems have been mandated to use the SBIR program, phase 3 contract. So if you've got a capability, you can actually get a direct award subcontract under a federal prime on another contract where the money's already allocated on that contract. They can reallocate the funds to a subcontract directly for you. And it doesn't impact the teaming agreements that they have with other partners on the main program. So, but you rarely ever hear about that. And I'm looking to expand on that capability a little bit more. But yes, the law says that a federally funded prime contractor can actually issue a phase 3 award. So I wanted to put in here my last slide before we open it up for discussion is how do I get a phase 3 contract? So I remind folks, if you've got a phase 2 customer today, talk to that customer. Wherever that customer is, say, okay, I built this for you, but who else in your organization can use it? What other departments that works with you do you think may need it? Because it may apply to many other customers in that same organization. So it's a great way to expand upon the capability because you got proven trust from one of those divisions within that organization. Find out if they have any other follow-on requirements anywhere in that organization. As I mentioned, there are 11 federal agencies that have SBIR programs. Go to them, talk to those small business advocates for each of those federal agencies. Talk to some of their government small business folks, the program managers. That's what I do today is just educating a lot of them. Hey, do you know enough about the SBIR program? Have you heard about SBIR phase 3s? Some of them are like, yeah, I know SBIR. It's like, well, you know about SBIR's 1s and 2s, but you do 3s. No, actually not. So I take the time and I explain to them that, and then I explain how my technologies could help them, and then hopefully hear from them some of their pain points and tell them how I've been able to solution that with other customers, and we can do the same for them. And it has done well because we get SBIR phase 3 direct award contracts out of that. Trust me, it's not that easy. It takes a lot of work and effort, but it does get done. We're doing that today. And you can too, once you have your technology. And we talked about that. But one of the three things, there's 3 documents I reference here. If you're really interested in learning about SBIRs and SBIR Phase 3s, is go to the SBA Policy Directive. But they also have 3 guidebooks for each services has a Phase 3 guidebook. I like the Air Force Phase 3 desk reference and the Navy Phase 3 guidebook. Like on page 45 of the Air Force Phase 3 desk reference, it's a bunch of Q&A written from the government perspective. So you can talk to a government customer and go, look, you don't have to believe me. This is real. Here's the document from your service that talks about Phase 3 and how ethical it is and how legal it is and how encouraging it is. And you can go, wow, I didn't know this, when you point out their own document. I remember talking with Rick originally, and I gave him the NASA SBIR Phase 3 guidebook that he was unaware of. Now, Rick wasn't working in the SBIR program at the time, but not everybody knows these documents exist. So when you give them a copy of their own handbook, they're like, oh, maybe I should look into this. And it gives you a little bit more credibility. You've done your homework, and hopefully will lead to more success for you. Alan, that's the end of my presentation. I'll be glad to open it up for questions.
So I'm going to ask the first question. Bill, if I'm a company and I don't have a Phase 1 or Phase 2, is there any value in what you've mentioned? Is there any opportunity for me with my innovation to be able to capitalize? Is there a possibility of that?
Possibility, sure. And so hopefully the picture that I painted today is there's a full rainbow here, right? If you've got a leading edge technology you think is strong, knowing this is how the SBIR program is run, it should entice you to go read the SBIR requirements that come out posted 3 times a year and find one of these organizations that might want your technology. For example, if you were to read the Air Force SBIR, 21.1 that had come out, one of the last requirements they put up is a open call for any technology. And that opens the door. They may not have a direct customer today that needs your technology, but they don't know your technology exists. So it's a welcome mat for you to come in and tell me about your capability. And you may find someone goes, oh my gosh, yes, let me introduce you to so-and-so. And they'll help you get your SBIR Phase 1, because what's the end of this rainbow? Direct award contracts. So this SBIR program can do a lot for your organization. You may not be in it today, but I say keep an eye on the SBIR program if you've got a technology you think the federal government would be interested in.
So has FTI ever worked with anyone let me back up and say it a different way. So the Phase 3s FTI is involved in, have they all been based on FTI's SBIR Phase 1 and 2s?
Yeah, any Phase 3 contract, a direct award contract from a government customer, if it's going to be a SBIR Phase 3 direct award, it has to tie in at least one of the SBIR technologies. That's what it's all about, is getting that technology into there. Doesn't matter what I do with that technology. For example, we do cost analysis of programs, right? What's life cycle cost, program cost, analysis of alternatives. What if I wanted to do a technology refresh and I wanted to move stuff to the cloud? What would that cost me to sunset these things? We do that with our technologies. So it is not about doing all that work. The award, the direct award to us, is about the one tool that we have that can help them do that, right? And with that technology or that direct award contract to use that technology, we usually start with, okay, what teaming partner that you have today do you recommend that I work with to help do this work? Because I may not be the most knowledgeable on Air Force human resource systems, but they're the ones who called us and said, we need help figuring out where we want to go. And so I need subject matter experts. And they go, yeah, hey, we got these 3 companies here today know our systems well enough. Can you bring them on as subcontractors? And we're like, sure. If you recommend them, we can do that. And together we were able to put the solution in place for them. All direct award to us, we're the prime, to get to our technology. And sometimes that includes other companies' technologies. But the contract is written to use at least my one technology. And that gets things started for them.
So how does, if there's someone here that thinks that they've got something, if it was your company or another company doing similar, how do you go about stepping forward to the possibility of working together the way you just put that?
So we have a lot of teaming partners, right? I meet companies all the time and learn about their technologies, and I pass that on to our operations folks who are running our contracts for us today. So when they have a government customer who has a need, or we go, we don't have SMEs in our company that do this. I need to go find a company that does this. They already know, and I've already introduced them to a couple of companies that I've met that are that may have a strong capability. And this is the way typical government contracting has gone on for years, right? Even on the competitive side, you meet teaming partners, you learn about their capabilities. I'm a woman-owned small business. I'm a service disabled. I do cyber, I do engineering, I do tech. Oh, you got past performance doing that? Great. So when I'm going to bid on a bigger contract, I'm looking for, especially when there's small business utilization goals of 30%, I've got to go find companies that bring something to the table. So I'm always maintaining a roster of companies and their capabilities, right? The SBIR program is a little different. The government customer comes to us for my technology, right? That's the main thing. But how I use that technology may require me to find teaming partners that bring other stuff to the table. So let me give you a for instance. I'm helping a cyber customer builds decisions on one of their programs, right? They're using our technology for this cyber weapon system. Is it going to be in line for the next 5 years? What are the changes that are needed? And most times in the cyber world, cyber moves at a speed that unlike anything others, right? A 0-day exploit comes out and or a 0-day vulnerability comes out and all of a sudden I need something else to fix that, right? Well, guess what? There's leading edge technologies out there that do that today. Maybe someone does malicious malware analysis. I can bring them on because they're the experts in doing that. I can make them a subcontractor tomorrow. That easy. I don't have to put together a whole solution for my government customer because it's a direct award to me, the main contract, but I found all of a sudden I need something new. And SBIR can move that way, unlike a competitive contract where you've clearly defined requirements, clearly defined deliverables for the next 5 years, right? That's normal government contracting and companies bid on it and it was down selected to this one company. Well, the government can't change the requirements of that contract because then all the people who lost are going to go, hey, lawsuit, no, protest. You changed the requirements. I can do that, so they can't do that. And they're always looking for a contract vehicle that can be flexible to bring on needed partners and capabilities that are beyond the original scope. And we have found SBIR Phase 3 contracting can be that flexible. Not always, but can be.
Okay. All right, I'm going to let everyone else who's got some questions. If you want, just unmic, and if you can, open up your video if you've got the bandwidth. Anne, we can't hear you yet.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Oh, there you go.
Anne Dupuy here. My question is related to what Alan was just referring to, and I'm just trying to make sure I have a clear understanding. So if a person has developed a technology up to technology readiness level 7 and then on to 8, so you're ready to start commercializing and you wish to have the government as a customer, and you don't, in some ways you've passed through the SBIR 1 and maybe 2 through your own private funding in some ways. Can can you still have the government as a customer, or would that be outside of the whole SBIR system?
Yeah, so Ann, you ask a great question. Let me try to answer it this way. If you forget about the SBIR program completely, understand how federal government contracting works, right? Any company at any time who's got a capability can go sell to the government. But you got to understand the government is not like the local bank or the hospital or the Walmart. You can't go into the CIO and he'll write you a check and start work tomorrow. The federal government doesn't work that way, right? They got policies and rules to make it fair. So everything is a competitive aspect, and it takes months, sometimes years, to get a procurement done, right? But any company can go after those things, right? You've got a capability, you've got a technology that you think is great. You're knocking on all the doors of these government organizations going, hey, I'd like to talk to you about my capability. And everybody in business development knows sometimes that's not easily done. They don't answer the door all the time, right? But you've got a great capability. A lot of people don't realize the SBIR program is a great entry point that's a little bit easier, because now you get buy-in, because once you get a SBIR Phase 1 award, meaning they like your concept. And understand, SBIR Phase 1 is about something that just, you can scratch it out on a bar napkin. It doesn't have to be fully built yet. The whole idea of is, here's my concept. What do you think? And the government says, hey, I like that. Here's $50,000. Can you take it to the next level for me? That's a SBIR Phase 1 award, right? But if you've got a product today that's already TRL 7.8 and ready to go, awesome, right? The government, and the hard part is, whatever that technology is, where in the government do I start marketing my capability, right? And that's the beauty of what the AFWERX program is doing, the Air Force folks on the SBIR side. One of their topics is open-ended, left it wide open for you to bring in whatever it is. You know, these 7 other ones may be clearly specific, and you're like reading this medical device, this air platform, this environmental thing, right? All these things, and you're like, yeah, I don't do that. I don't do, oh, here's an open topic. Perfect. Here, they want you to bring your idea in, and let's hope you get a Phase 1 out of it, right? Because that's a hunting license now. And now you're legal, and all of a sudden, let's say a year from now, you're talking to a Marine Corps customer, and they're like, wow, this is great. How do I get to you? And you're like, you know, the Air Force gave me a SBIR Phase 1 award, a year or so ago. Oh, perfect. I can buy it from you right now then. You can? Yes. Whereas everybody else goes, normally they'd be like, hey, I like your capability. How do I get to you? And you're like, well, I'm on this IDIQ and I'm on this competitive vehicle, and hopefully you can shape it as a task order and we'll bid on it. In 2 years, maybe I'll be your prime. That's the beauty of the SBIR program, is you may be able to market it and get on contract a whole lot sooner, which is the ultimate purpose of the SBIR program, is find the leading edge technology, get it to fit a mission, and get it into the hands of the warfighter.
It's one of those things you wish you had done yesterday or the year before, but it's never too late to try and get in there.
I can tell you, Ann, when my company came to me and was trying to get me to join the company, I was like, SBIR program, that's products and widgets. I'm a cyber guy, right? I'm a cyber services guy. I spent a career in the Air Force and in the industry doing that. And I was like, no, I don't want to have to deal with the R&D. And he's like, no, you don't understand. And I did it. He needed help on the business development side. And when I learned how to use that SBIR program to do contracting today, I'm like, why didn't I know about this years ago? This would have been so much easier. But it's everybody thinks of SBIR as SBIR dollars. They don't realize SBIR program also has a direct award contracting capability that the operational world can use today. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hey, Bill, this is David Cool, Clearwater. Hey, I have a question kind of along the same lines as that the lady before just asked. If we have a project that, the concept is there, but there's other versions of that concept, other potential concepts that feed off of the initial one that we've started to develop, and we've started some prototyping, but not completed that yet. Where would you recommend that we start in the process, the SBIR process? Should we go back to the concept, say, introduce that? We're still developing some portions of it. We do have a conceptual product, but here's where we think it'll go in the future, and start there. And then we're already started on with our own financing a product that we've started to develop into a prototype. So that then we're on the phase 2, of course. I mean, where does it go? Because I mean, we would like to take advantage of that, plus get our foot in the door with the cyber program to be in front of these people, where we're not taking a product when we're already in phase 3 and trying to sell it.
Right. Everything starts at phase 1. You got to have a phase 1 award in order to do anything in the SBIR program, right? So you got to respond to a requirement. That's the picture of the way the program was first designed. The government customers put out a problem, and you've got a solution for that. It has morphed into, hey, we've got an open door, so come on in and tell us about it. But understand, it can be, that solution can be like Ann just talked about. It's ready to go, already ready, commercialized, or it's a bar napkin scratched out, with pencil and stains all over the paper. That's okay. They want to hear about that concept. But if you've got a technology that's ready to go and you get a phase 1 award, you can go straight to phase 3. A government customer can buy it because it's already ready. They don't need to flush it out unless they go, yeah, this is good, but I needed to do this. Okay, well, let's do it. Let's put in a SBIR phase 2 package, get some SBIR dollars. My developers will work on tweaking it to get it to the way you want. And when I deliver that to you, if you really like it, now you can issue me a phase 3 contract. I wave goodbye to the SBIR program, and now I'm selling SBIR phase 3 contracts to every government customer that I come across because my technology has already matured. But if it's not, starting at phase 1 gets you in the door, gets them thinking about it and finding a government customer. And you can market that concept every single time to different the Army. It's not a one-stop shop. You can do this for the next 10 years, taking that technology and bringing it in the door as a phase 1, as long as there's a requirement or a need put out there for it.
Oh, well, thanks. That helps me a lot. So appreciate that.
Hey, this is Rick Slater.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, and actually, this isn't so much a question. Bill was talking about the difficulty because a lot of the procurement folks really aren't that well versed in phase 3 contracting. And we kind of ran into that at Johnson Space Center. We actually had 2, and I talked with the contracting officers that did it, and they were very successful, and they were really excited because they literally had them in place in about 4 to 5 weeks. They had the contract actually running. One of them was a crowdsourcing one, and one was, it was actually a small chamber that they use for all small experiments that are run on the International Space Station. And that actually ended up a fairly large award. And the 2 contracting officers, I went and spoke with them, and they said, man, it was great. It was fast, and we really loved it. But it never went anywhere as far as the word never spread to the rest of procurement. And when I kind of pushed on it a little bit to see why we, wouldn't be willing to do some more of it, basically it came back to, remember, we want to do everything competitive. So there's a lot of education that needs to go into the procurement world to let them know that some of these, they'll always talk about, hey, we need to do more agile contracting and everything. And this is a good one, but there's always that, hey, we have to do things competitively or we'll run into problems. And so that's really a hill that still has to be climbed. And I know, Bill, I've talked to you many times, and that's exactly what you run into.
Yeah, Rick, I can tell you, if you think back, those that are familiar with the OTA acquisition capability today, 2-3 years ago, you introduce OTA and people are like, no, I can't go around my contracting officer. What are you talking about? No, I can't do that. And now look, right, all of a sudden it's commonplace. The Army loves OTAs, which is really outsourced acquisition. But the point was, it was a new concept and now it's been adopted. And so I like to think more and more folks, especially with AppWorks, a service, taking it and making it their own and reinvigorating it. We've been very successful, so I can't complain. But I'd like to think in 2 years or so, SBIR Phase 3 contracting is going to become a normal, common, everyday term. At least I hope.
If I could jump in real quick.
Hi, Lori.
How are you? I am assuming that the folks on the line are very familiar with the great activities with the Kansas SBDC and Oklahoma SBDC and the SBDCs in your states. I'm always amazed at the number of small businesses that don't understand how much they can help, as well as PTAX, et cetera. But as far as agile acquisition, there are now 77 PIAs and at least 16 more. I actually know of 20 more in the works. And I would encourage small businesses. The SBIR path is a good one. And I've always encouraged small businesses to look at SBIRs. But I would also highly encourage to watch the activities with folks like AppWorks. And most of you probably know that I launched the first AppWorks for Air Force out of Las Vegas. I led that for the Air Force. And I want everybody to know when that started, we did not have approval fully to count our challenges as full and open competition. When I started back in 16, when we ran challenges, a lot of times those technologies still had to be competed. But I believe it was in 18 that we finally got a ruling from the GAO that when we ran our challenges, that was considered open competition, so that it didn't have to be recompeted. So they are, in my opinion, what I'm seeing in the government is they're trying to extend and create more agile acquisition contracts. GSA just got on board with another contracting mechanism called the CSO. So there's a bunch of things out there. So I just want to encourage small businesses. I would look at every avenue, including SBIRs, but keep your eyes open. And again, one of the best places, if I were a small business, is I'd keep in touch with my SBDC counselor. I was on speed dial with my SBDC counselor when I was in Michigan in a small business years ago, because they've got they know what's going on. Bill and Alan and Rick and the folks with SBDC are getting more and more knowledgeable every day on ways they can help. So I wouldn't hesitate to reach out. Tim Fowler's on the line. He keeps his eyes on the pulse of what the commands are looking for. And so I'm just saying, if I were a small business, I'd be stalking Bill, Carey, and Alan, and sorry you guys, but I would.
Yes, so Lori, first of all, thank you for your service to the Air Force and getting that launch with the AppWorks. It has really invigorated SBIR program has been around since the mid 80s, but most people just didn't know it well enough. And they've really gave it a new flavor. So thanks for all you've done there. And you're absolutely right. Nowadays, there are more and more opportunities for acquisition, and the SBIR program is just one of them. But like this presentation, taking it to the next level, what the SBDC is doing here, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to give you some of our experience doing this. So hopefully it encourages other organizations to consider the program and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
And by the way, there's a brand new agile acquisition contract that I'm not up to speed with yet, by the name of Apex. It's an Air Force wide PIA, and I'm going to be connecting with Colonel Nathan Diller, the CEO of AFWorks, next week. That got moved from the Pentagon when I launched it. AFRL is a contracting office, but the Pentagon led it. It is now being led by AFRL. And I think you'll probably see some changes still and yet on the way that things are going to be happening with AFWorks. So stay tuned.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pedro,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. It just took a little bit of time to kind of hit the unmute button. Bill, would you kind of talk? I think it would benefit a lot of folks to kind of talk about a timeline about from where for your phase 1, phase 2, and then follow on phase 3 program, what that timeline looked like on the technologies that successfully made it to phase 3. Thank you.
Oh, wow. If there's a loaded question, that's it. So, yeah, you know, the SBIR phase 1 and phase 2 program, it's already mandated by the program itself. They know when you get a SBIR phase 1 award, you've got so many days, months to deliver whatever it is that they've asked for. Same on SBIR phase 2. It's usually like a year-long program to be able to build your prototype or demonstration. Those are all part of that program. The hard part is when you do have a phase 1 or phase 2 award, right? And you're marketing your capability to the government. That could take a long time, right? Just like any other business development, you're going around, you're trying to sell it and trying to find a customer who needs your technology now and not just in the future. But know that SBIR phase 3 contracting, that contracting aspect can move pretty quick. But don't want to put too much icing on top of it. I mean, we did one that it only took 3 weeks to put in place a SBIR phase 3 contract, an agency level basic ordering agreement. Why? Because the contracting officer already understood phase 3s, knew what he needed to do. Basic ordering agreement is not a contract, it's an agreement. So it's just doing the T's and C's, and they worried about what the actual scope of work is when we did the first task order, right? So it was able to quickly get a contract in place. Others, it takes a little bit longer because just like anything else, you've got an energetic contracting officer that wants to do it, but they may not have the signature authority for that contract warrant and have to get approvals. And then when you send it up for approval, now the boss is like, what is this? Why is this different? Why are you doing something other than the way we've always done business? And there's an education process and there's the discussions and it takes a little bit longer. But I can tell you once it gets done in place and that GS-13 is now a hero because they got that hard procurement solved, all of a sudden someone's like, hey, tell me how you did that, you know, and can I do that with this company? You know, and so getting them and then educating them. So it can take a little bit. And I'd hate to give you a timeline because I don't want to give anybody any false hopes. But it could take a while based on your customer and how long to get them educated and get the signatures and get everything in place.
Thank you for that, Bill. I didn't mean to, you know, yes, I know it's kind of, I think one of the things we run with our clients and I try to do that across the board is to kind of manage those expectations. You know, that, you know, it's a simple phrase, but there's so much to it, as you rightly mentioned. Would you kind of, so in your case, you've got a pretty healthy company that's running, but for those startups that are earlier, you know, some of those time lags can be a death knell for them. And would you kind of maybe expand on some of the methodologies FDI has pursued in time to allocate capital within the company so that there is allocation made to do that what's what I'm looking for, to do that introduction of the technology to the purchase officers and sort of shop that around and get that business development aspect done, which is not fundable under any of these contracts. But yeah, I think that would kind of help. I feel like some of the companies that to kind of manage those expectations better. So any insight on that would be appreciated.
Sure. As any startup company knows that the CEO is also the president and the treasurer and the chief bottle washer and the parking lot attendant and wears many hats, right? And that usually includes business development and sales, and is usually the first person on contract doing the actual work, but yet still trying to run the company and trying to grow it, right? Startup business is tough. So if I can answer it with an example, hopefully it helps. When I joined the company at the end of 2018, we were just over 200 employees. And I said, wait a minute, you've been in the business for 33 years and you're only 200 employees? Something doesn't sound right, but they were bidding on these SBIR technologies and SBIR awards. And they had a couple of people, big brains, decision analysis, PhD type people that know the stuff, was able to build these formulas and all that. And they were doing a little bit and answering SBIR stuff. That's what we did. We got money from that. They weren't growing a lot. They weren't, they were obviously investing a lot of their time in doing this and getting a little money here and there and a little money here and there. Next thing you know, you get a contract and you get a couple of people on that, and that gives you the opportunity to for people to get paid and everything else like any other startup company. And it wasn't for us, it after doing this all these years, and now we've got a few mature technologies, it wasn't until when my boss got involved with the company 5 years ago. He was working for a large business. He tried to buy this company because he liked the technologies and their capability. And they were a big company. But they wanted this technology inside of their company. And this little small business wouldn't sell. They knew the value of what they had. And so he decided, hey, if I can't beat them, join them. And so he left that big business. He joined this company here and was helping them grow. But other than that, they didn't have a sales staff. They didn't know how to market and sell. And he saw the value in their capabilities, and with his experience has been able to take the company, and we're now knocking on the 500 mark, and our revenue has a steady progression and climb over these last 5 years, and a little bit before that, but he definitely took it to the next level. So the hard part is you don't always have enough resources to market this, but in talking with people on the phone here today, the PTACs and the SBDCs, you can definitely get advice on, and I guess Tim is your DOD rep here, meeting some of these people and asking for help. Other companies back in the day, they just didn't know how to turn to, and small business advocates were not very, won't say they were great advocates for small business. They get overwhelmed because as Rick knows, you got 1 and 2 people in an office, and you've got 1,000 companies all knocking on the door wanting help, trying to market their capabilities. And it's a tough job, hard to do. But hopefully sessions like this, talking with others, getting teammates to get advice can help a small business that doesn't have a marketing staff or a sales staff to help them grow their business. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. In fact, I think you did a fantastic job of kind of exploring and kind of expanding on that. An additional question I have is, did FTI pursue any kind of state funds and or state resources to kind of to grow their innovation and commercialization to the markets?
I don't know. Our company started, the founder came out of Huntsville, Alabama, and we were connected with Congressman Shelby down there. And he kind of put his big brother arm around us and helped us guide us to some of the right people. I don't know if they had any, of course, he was at the state level, but he worked obviously on behalf of the federal government. So I don't know if they got any state resources. Honestly, don't know how to answer that question.
No, that's good. No, thank you.
And actually, you asked a good question as well, because it wasn't too long ago, Rick and I were having this conversation is I had a state agency come to me through one of my consultants, said, hey, can we do SBIR phase 3 contracting? And I went, I don't know. Maybe Lori, you can shed some light on this. It's a federal program. Can states do SBIR program? Can they do direct award contracts? And I don't think so, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Lori, your thoughts?
I don't believe so. I believe it's only available to qualified small businesses.
But through the
Well,
federal government.
yeah. I mean, I will tell you that states are very much involved with, and it's a criteria on PIAs, on PIAs in particular, to have a state tie and a state involvement. It's a federal requirement in the legislation.
But the SBIR program is a federal program, and states and state agencies can't do SBIR phase 3 contracting. I think it's,
I'm fairly sure they can't.
yeah. But you go to yourself, well, wait a minute, why not?
That's not to say they can't partner with the small business that does the SBIR phase 3.
Right.
But
And I don't know enough about state procurement policies and how they're all done. Is every state different, or is there some commonality amongst the states? I would assume there's a lot of differences, but how they do contracting and procurement at the state level, I don't know if they can use a federal program like the 8A program, even, or the SBIR program, or some of the others.
So I think one of the things there, Christy popped up, sent out to everyone a comment. We partner with, as one of our resource partners is PTAC, so they are one of the best resources for this kind of stuff as you go forward. Christy, I don't know if you want to talk today, but we definitely want to have PTAC in the series to continue to dovetail to where we can move forward. Our hope is that this conversation today brings about the wonderment as to whether or not you have something that is of value to a customer that has been trying to get to purchase whatever it is you have, to where you start searching as to how do we get there, whether it's with someone like FTI or not, or like Lori Moncrief. We've got so many different ways of looking at this and the opportunities that if we present all of them in one presentation, I think it becomes information overload. And so instead of hearing a specific opportunity, I just hear that there's tons of them. And so it's kind of like landing on a web page with everything on one, the entire Wikipedia on one page, and you can't find anything. And we've got to get back to simplifying things, I think. I am a big believer in who moved my cheese. You run down the hall and you go left or right. That's all there is. So we want to try to clarify or do that for you. If something you've seen today is like, I really want to follow up on that, that's why we're recording this, to where we can, as we find others, we say, okay, go watch this, listen to it. And if it seems like it makes sense, then reach out to us. So for those of you that go, we need to reach out, well, then reach out to us. Reach out to Bijou in Texas, reach out to me and Bill and Vicki, Tom Byler. I think Jack was on earlier, Jack Harwell. Reach out to us and let us start working with you through this. And as soon as we get into the specifics and the regulations and contracting, then we definitely need to reach out to someone like Christy with PTAC so we can move forward. Lori, I think Lori Moncrief, we want to continue this conversation with other specifics. And I'm going to challenge Bill Robinson. Bill, I would want to do the same thing. So as you, as a follow-up, whether it's a full-fledged program or maybe we do OTA, PIA, and then we go back and then do 2 or 3 case studies. I just know that whenever I got my financial professional certification, one of the things they did so well, they lectured for short periods, then they had case studies, and then we analyzed the case study, and then we all talked about it. So one of the things I'd love to see us do is I'd love to challenge you to go back and find, if you're doing this on your own, well, then this is information to us. But how do we use this information to where it makes sense to where for a call to action? So I'd love to challenge you to go and find a company, find an example that if you could, that if you have to anonymize it, that's fine. But if you could give us a real world example of, here was this little company and here we are, and together we did so-and-so, and here's how we were able to do it. I think that inspires people, it informs them, and it maybe gives them an idea of what they could do. So I'd love to see you come back if you can. And then with Lori Moncrief, as we open up the PIAs, I'd like to do the same thing. I'd like to have a specific real world example of how it worked. Because I think for me, once I hear this, then I want to know I want to see a real step forward that inspire. Okay, now I got an idea. But if would that be something you'd be up to?
Yeah, by all means, definitely see if I can put together a use case, exactly what you're talking about there. First of all, I think it'd be a good exercise for us to have a couple of those. So I'm glad it's an action item coming out of this.
Cool. Well, then I know we are, to Bill Carey, we're slightly past 1 o'clock. So if everyone would not look at your phone, but look at your analog phone, analog clock, and push it back about 25 minutes, then we'll be on time.
Well, are there any other questions out there?
I think everybody's scared to ask them now.
Yeah, you did a good job there, Alan. Well, I want to thank Bill for coming and speaking today. It was a great presentation and it was a great dialogue. And this is what we really want these things to be, is at least the second half. Really, everybody get to ask questions. If you come up with a question tomorrow or the next day, reach out to any one of us, and then we'll work it. We're actually working one on with one company who had a question on needing some phase 2 participation, and they reached out, and we're helping right now to kind of work that. So any kind of questions you have, whether it's phase 1, 2, or 3, feel free to reach out, and we'll get back with you. We'll do what we can.
So Rick, one of the comments, and I know you know about this, was on is this a possible application for mentor protege arrangement? And I know that Rick has talked to me about that program, and I want that as one of our follow-ups. So I don't know if this one particularly is, but this is a great program that we want to know more about. So I'm glad Chris brought that up. That's something we definitely want to follow up with.
Okay. Yep. We'll add that to the list. No problem.
Like I said, for each of you, if you have something you see of specific question or interest for your particular innovation, please reach out to whoever is appropriate. You can reach out to us, and we'll pass you on. But that's part of what this is about. Is as we launched last week and this week, we now want to start specifically working with clients through that. We are behind schedule on following up on a survey. Some things happened this week that physically it took me off base, but we are following up. We'll be doing a survey follow-up and then a new survey for NASA, for the NASA primes with Rick. So we got several pieces of information going out. So be looking for those as well. Thank you very much, Bill, for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you for the time today.
All right, guys, make it a great and safe weekend.
Thank you, everybody. It's great.
Thank you. Bye now.